May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Whoever wants to be first must be last of all and servant of all. Whoever welcomes one little child in my name welcomes me and welcomes the one who sent me. From the Epistle of James, who is wise and understanding among you? Show by your good life that your works are done with gentleness, born of wisdom. From the Psalm today, I will offer you a free will sacrifice and praise your name, O Lord, for it is good. On this past Monday of this week, I had an orientation tour of Smile. And they took several clergy there for lunch, and we went behind the scenes and met the staff and toured the food pantry and toured the thrift store all the way through from the receiving dock through to where things go out in the store floor, and then we had lunch and heard about Smile Ministries. And as I turn to these readings for today, I realize that at Smile, we are living out these readings, this sermon, the point that Jesus is trying to get across to his friends. As we talked about in last week's sermon, the focus in the Gospel of Mark has shifted. The story is no longer outward-facing, with Jesus ministering to the crowds, teaching large groups, healing in public. He's now pouring himself into the disciples. So it's more focused, it's more inward-facing as Jesus makes his way to Jerusalem one last time. And despite Jesus beginning to pour himself into his friends' lives, teaching his disciples in this last chance, they don't get it. They don't understand, or perhaps they're beginning to understand that Jesus is serious in these warnings he is giving about his passion and death. And they're resisting. Mark tells us they did not understand what he was saying and were afraid to ask him. The gospel today says instead, as they were walking along the road, they were arguing about who was the greatest. You can imagine what they said to each other. I was with him first. I've done the most. He likes me best. My family has known his family longer than your family. We're trying to fit Jesus into their idea of the kingdom. And instead, Jesus invites them and Jesus invites us into Jesus' idea of the kingdom. And so Jesus takes a little child. The word in Greek could also mean a young servant. Someone who was there, clearly. If Jesus could reach out and pull him into the story or her into the story. Someone who was there but who was unnoticed, taken for granted, ignored, seen and not heard, or probably not seen and not heard. Someone seen as expendable in that society. And Jesus turns their world and our world on its head when he says, whoever welcomes one little child in my name welcomes me, and welcomes the one who sent me. Jesus then puts them on the spot. Do you want to be first? Jesus asks. Then you must be last of all and servant of all. I thought of these words as I heard again what the word smile for Smile Ministry stands for. Service makes individual lives exciting. Service makes individual lives exciting. At Smile, we are living out the reality of serving God by serving others. I say we because Smile is an important ministry partner for us. We've been a member for, I think, a little over 10 years. We weren't there at the founding, but we're now one of the 11 churches that makes it up working together. Even the idea of 11 churches working together doesn't capture the miracle of what is happening at Smile. There are 100 volunteers who participate in the thrift store. There are 75 volunteers who help with the food pantry. And I learned on Monday that those 175 volunteers between the food store and the pantry all participate. When you go to Smile, you work with your first name only. There's no hierarchy, no last names, no rank, no labels. No one cares what church you came from or if you come from no church at all. Smile has been in its current location for about 20 years, but it is still building, still expanding, still improving. And its model is simple. The thrift store drives everything else. Smile receives federal and state grants, but they don't depend on them because of the success of the thrift store. Their ministries are largely self-supporting. They've also created imaginative partnerships with Weiss Markets, with Wawa, with Asbury Solomons, with Starbucks, with some local farms, and others. Everyone who works at Smile is a volunteer. They have no paid staff at all. As I said, the thrift store is what drives the engine. It's the engine that drives all of it. We're very selective about what goes out on the floor so that the store stays clean and bright and doesn't smell like a used furniture or a used clothing store. And they have some beautiful items on the shelves. Everything is tested and inspected before it goes out. Every dish is washed. Every appliance and lamp is plugged in and checked and serviced before it goes out. That's why it takes 100 people to make it work. The food pantry in 2020 provided food for 18,000 people. 239,000 pounds of food. That's 199,000 meals, they calculate. They also provide every year a Christmas dinner that is open to all, served at the American Legion. Last year, because of COVID, it was a takeout dinner, and 160 meals went out, with another 54 meals taken to the Southern Pines Senior Center. They're also able to fund an emergency financial assistance program, so people who need help with rent or electric bills or that sort of thing can come, and after an interview, if the need seems legitimate, they write the check to, not to the individual, but to the electric company or the landlord or whoever the person owes money to. They also have a more substantial homelessness prevention program, so in select cases, somebody who's in danger of losing their home, but who has long-term viability, a long-term chance of success, they can pump funds in and support in and help that person get back on their feet. Their clientele was down surprisingly somewhat in 2021. In part because there's so many other programs of assistance that are available right now, but that's beginning to flip back, and they expect a rebound on demand in 2022. So 11 congregations working together can do what one congregation alone cannot do. Comprehensive thrift store, a generous food pantry. As I looked at all that was going on at Smile, it reminded me of the miracle that happens here on Tournament Day, where people come out of the woodwork to put Tournament Day together, and many hands make light work. We do it once a year at Smile. That's lived out every week. I would be remiss if I did not mention that since the beginning of our participation at Smile, one of our representatives on the Smile board has been Sue Chabot. We're allowed to have 2 representatives. Sue is the only lay representative right now, so if you're interested in being part of that, please let me know. I rely to a degree on Smile because when I get a call from someone asking for help, asking for money for an electric bill or for rent or so on and so forth, once I hear the person's story and find out where they live, if they're in the Smile area, the first thing I ask them is, have you called Smile? Have you been interviewed at Smile? And if they say yes, I feel more comfortable in giving out money. If they say no and they don't want to go to Smile, sometimes that helps me decide whether or not they really need assistance. Smile can also connect them with other agencies, other resources, other help, sometimes that I'm not available, and sometimes that I'm not aware of. So from James we heard today, who is wise and understanding among you? Show by your good life that your works are done with gentleness born of wisdom. From Jesus, whoever wants to be first must be last of all and servant of all. So can you drive a truck, stock shelves, sort donations, wash dishes, steam clothes before they go out on the sales floor, test and fix appliances, repair a bicycle? Can you sit with a client and hear their story? Do you have quality donations cluttering up your home and your life? Can you give the gift of money or of groceries? The gift of prayer? Can you take a friend or a child or a grandchild to Smile and volunteer and make a friend while you're there? Jesus said, whoever welcomes one such servant in my name welcomes me. Whoever welcomes me welcomes not me, but the one who sent me. Amen.